We made it. It's Sunday afternoon. We didn't have to take a boat to get here. But we're praying for rain still, right? It's starting. The atmospheric river is sending it up the coast. So I'm Will McGarvey. I'm Executive Director of Solano Pride Center. And we've got some fabulous folks here, but we also want to get to know everyone else here as well. So if you wouldn't mind, can we just pass the mic around and let everyone say their name and get their voice in the space? And then we'll hear more from our panel and our moderator, board chair for Solano Pride Center, Stephen Clifford. And if you want to think about it, you can say your pronouns if you have preferred pronouns. If you would rather people just use your name, which some people do, you can mention that too. So I'm Will. I use he and they pronouns. Even have stickers to remind folks. We have some pronoun keychains and stickers in the table outside with all of our other information about our programs as well.
I'm Sarah Blanchfield, she, her pronouns.
Hi, I'm Wendy Nettles, she, her pronoun.
I'm Cheryl Nelson, she, her pronoun.
I'm Pat Obendorf, she for pronoun.
Suzanne A. Walt, she, her.
I am Pastor Kim Kendrick, she, her pronouns. And I'm so delighted that you're here.
And I'm Leslie Prawl, and I'm she, her.
I'm Roger Reber, he, him.
Barbara Ham, she, her.
Shelby Riddle, she, her.
Deborah Shanks, she, her.
And I'll just pass it over to you.
All right, the she-hers are winning today. I am Stephen Clifford, as Will introduce me. I use he, him, his. You can call me Mr. Clifford or Sir if you are fancy, but most people just call me Stephen. But if you end up calling me Stephen or Clifford before the end of the day, just know that happens all the time.
My name is Jerry Ann Guzman. I do not use pronouns. I am the executive director and co-founder of Solano Serenity Center, which has been in Vallejo since 2012.
I am Kason Cosmos, and I don't use pronouns.
I'm Ms. Bob Davis. Ho-hum. Female pronouns for me are flattery.
Hi, lovely to see everybody. This is a really beautiful church too. Thank you for coming. I'm Christina Zaldana, and Hershey like the chocolate.
Do we really need the mic?
Only for the recording.
There are people Ooh.
Hello.
Oh, recording, I understand.
We're recording for the people at home and for, well, in our community or in our human family, there is a concept of erasure that is consistent towards specifically the marginalized group of the time. Queer people have often been the marginalized group of the time, and that's why people are like, why is this a phase? This is brand new since COVID, except that all of us have been here long before COVID. And so I think it's important that we record. We haven't done enough of that. And so as fascism tries to take over here and there, it's important for us to keep stories alive, because that's how we humanize each other as one family, right? Because that's what we really are. We're just a bunch of cousins on a rock in space. I do have some prepared questions to ask these amazing people whom I work with all the time. Except that I also want you to know that if you have questions, you should ask. And I have a rule of there is no stupid questions. And if they're uncomfortable, I promise to answer them. Okay, because that's my role here today. I will answer any question, even if my amazing panelists are uncomfortable and don't want to answer, I will answer. And normally what we do is we talk about how we got here, how we came out, Those are very intimate stories. So what I think I'm going to say instead, I would like each of you to present what you want these folks to know about you, your journey, or about being trans, or anything else you've brought that you want to share. Does that sound like a good starting point? Okay, I'm going to now turn myself off. I can stay on.
Hello? Yep. Okay. Again, my name's Jerry Ann Guzman. I'm actually a Vallejo resident of 65 years. Born and raised in Vallejo. One of my first jobs was working for the postmaster here in Benicia, way back in the day, Frank Quinga. He taught me bookkeeping, and I've been a bookkeeper for 52 years now. Yeah, I see some shocked faces, yes. I am Two-Spirit, and I am transgender. Two-Spirit is an indigenous term, and it's only indigenous to the Americas. So from Alaska all the way down to the tip of South America. That's who uses the term Two-Spirit. You can be gay, you can be any part of the alphabet and not be Two-Spirit. Two-Spirit recognizes that you carry within you both male and female parts to your body, to your soul, so to speak. And Two-Spirit people have been around since the beginning of time. We used to be the only people in our tribes to be able to bury the dead, to be midwives, to advise the chiefs and the grandmothers' councils, because we were, as a pastor is in a church, the connection between the Great Spirit and the earth, and the people of the earth. My tribe that I descend from are the Purepecha, and we are from Michoacan, Mexico. We actually were the rivals of what you call the Aztecs. Aztec is not the proper name for them. They are the Mexica. Aztec was termed in the late 1800s because scholars hated using the term Mexica and mixing it up with Mexico. And since those people came from a city called Aztlan, if you put the EC behind it, it means the people from Aztlan. That's how they got the term Aztec. But we were their direct rivals, and should the conquistadors not have conquered them, we would have overtaken those peoples in the 1500s and become the dominant group in Mexico. I am also adopted Cree into the Edward Lavallée family from Canada, First Nations. My journey started when I was 4 years old. I knew I was different. But there wasn't any terms back in 1965 for that. To give you a little background, my family were founders of the Ascension Episcopal Church in Vallejo, and my grandmother was a founder of St. Catherine's Catholic Church in Vallejo. Both sides of the coin. So there was no words for that. I didn't understand who I was until the late 90s. I started investigating, and I did not come out until 2010. 2010. My spouse outed me to my family. She found some information I had from a doctor I had been seeing in San Francisco. And I was going to counseling, getting ready to talk to my spouse and my family. And she kind of ambushed me one morning with my kids as I came home from work. And of course, it was immediate. I wanted a divorce, and it was immediate. I attempted suicide. for about 8 solid years, I had lost my family. My spouse passed away in 2013, 2014, excuse me, 2013. 2013 on April 14th. She passed away of congestive heart failure in front of me. And my children, from that point until about 3 years ago, blamed me for her passing. So a lot of us that you will see up here have lost our families. Now, I'd been a tax preparer in Solano County for 50 years, 45 years. I lost all of my clients. I lost everybody but 2 friends. And I was living on the street for approximately 3 years. It's not easy, but this is what we go through. Many of us have to turn to sex work. Many of us have to turn to drugs and things like that to try to cope. And you'll see, if you come to Transgender Day of Remembrance, which is next Saturday at the Vallejo Museum, this year there's 51 names that'll be read. 2 are 15-year-old children, 1 in Fort Bragg and 1 in Colorado, that have committed suicide. To demonize us is wrong. To look at us as anything other than human beings who are just trying to get by is wrong. We are not pedophiles. We are not recruiting children. I knew when I was 4 years old I was different. I didn't like playing with G.I. Joe. I'd rather play with Barbie. I'd rather go with my friends that were up the block that were girls and play the games of the time, you know, kerplunk and things like that. Not go out there and play football, not go out there and play basketball. Those were not enjoyable to me. So I knew I was different. But again, at that time, we had no words for this. So, you know, Christine Jorgensen was an oddity. People throughout history, they were one-offs that you actually heard of. But we've been around since the beginning of time. And that's kind of the message I want to get across. We're not evil. We're spiritual people. I'm a very spiritual person in the tribes. I'm an elder. And people come to me for advice, much as they come to a pastor for advice. And we sit down and converse. It's difficult. And what we want to get across is that we're just like you. We just want to get along with our lives. What's under our clothes, what's in our pants, is our concern. Our partner's concern if we have one. Nobody else's. You know, could you see, and let me give you an example here. Could you see Stephen going into a woman's restroom? Because on their birth certificate, quote unquote, they were female at birth. Could you see me going into a men's restroom? What problems are going to be caused? What can happen? There was one instance this last summer in I believe it was Colorado, that a person was at a camping area and they were told, because you're a female at birth, you had to go in and use the women's restroom. They did. And they came out to be beaten within an inch of their life. That's what is happening. That's what we fear every day. And we walk around here, Ms. Bob and everybody here, we walk around here like, okay, we understand the difficulties. that we have to get through. And we put a brave face on. But a lot of us are scared to death inside of going into a new area. I went to, and I'm not trying to take up a lot of time, but I went to Montana for a Two-Spirit gathering. And we drove through Idaho to come home. Stopped at a rest stop to go to the bathroom. I sit down to use the restroom. There's a sign inside the door. If you are not born female, you do not belong in this restroom. You will be put in jail for a minimum of 5 years, and there will be a $5,000 fine. And here's a reward number for people to call if they saw me in there. That's what we live with every day. So I just want to give that up to you so you understand where we're coming from when we talk today about who we are. And if you have questions, please ask. Please. There's no wrong question. We're here to help people understand.
So, I don't know where to start. Okay, it's like been really hard. I started coming out in 2022. I think it was 2020. 2021, 2022, around there at work. And I was met with open arms. I was met with, they put my name, Case and Cosmos, on the door. Like everybody else has had their name on the door. They changed it and put my name on the door. So it was really a lot of like unicorns and butterflies and rainbows at first. And looking back, I feel like I came out too fast, but that's where I'm at now. So I thought coming out was more about, well, I don't know, I see it as more like a coming into myself than a coming out. And sharing who I am with people that I see I want to share it with. Well, that's it for now.
Hi. I'm Ms. Bob. I'm the founder and director of the Louise Lawrence Transgender Archive in Vallejo. We have a bunch of brochures out on the table. Should it interest you, please take one. We're open by appointment to the public. And being a historian, I thought I'd talk about the history of the holiday that's coming up for us, the transgender community, Transgender Day of Remembrance, which is usually held traditionally, if we can talk about something that's only been around for 30 years as having tradition, or less than 30 a little bit. It's the Thursday before Thanksgiving. So this year it's the 20th. I'll figure it out. No, it's okay. Thank you. On November 20th, 1995, Chanel Pickett, an African-American transgender woman living in the greater Boston area, was murdered. She had been strangled. The Transgender Community Forum, an online chat room at AOL, reported Chanel's death. The director of AOL's Transgender Community Forum was Gwendolyn Ann Smith. 3 years later, on November 28, 1998, Rita Hester, another African-American transgender woman, was also murdered in Boston. She was stabbed 20 times. Gwen went online to chat with friends. She talked to others in the community, and there was an air of sorrow that a black trans woman had been murdered so brutally. But though another black trans woman was killed, well, that's interesting. In the same month, in the same city, a few years before, no one remembered Chanel Pickett. This lack of community memory frightened Gwen. She felt, quote, a sense of frustration, seeing our community not seemingly have any idea of these murders and feeling that they might not even care. So Gwen began researching transgender deaths by violence. She launched a website called Remembering Our Dead in late 1998. In March 1999, a fledgling trans rights group called TG Rage planted the seed for what would become Transgender Day of Remembrance. During a showing of the Brandon Tina story at San Francisco's Castro Theater, Gwen and about 50 others held a vigil, holding candles and signs showing the names that Gwen had collected. Gwen said a few words. That autumn, Gwen and another transgendered woman, Penny Ash Martz, decided to hold the first TDOR, Transgender Day of Remembrance, observance on November 20th, 1999, both in Boston and San Francisco. About 70 to 100 people gathered in the rain at Harvey Milk Plaza in the Castro for the first TDOR candlelight vigil. They had a sign that read, Sunday, November 28th, 1999, will be the 1-year anniversary of the death of Rita Hester. Rita was stabbed to death in her own apartment. Remembering Our Dead and TDOR began as one person's quest to preserve transgender history and memorialize those who had died from violence year after year. And though other communities celebrate holidays born from a spirit of joy and liberation, the first holiday the transgender community put on the calendar is a solemn observance, a plea to respect human life. I'd like to break the mood a little bit. Okay, you know. That may have done it. Reading this, I realized it was a very heavy thing to bring out in an afternoon. It's not even the holiday itself, but it seemed appropriate. It seemed information I wanted to share, something I thought was valuable to know. And I hope I've expressed it and explained it well enough. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bob. Thank you to everybody, too, for just being here and pouring out themselves. What Ms. Bob was just discussing, Transgender Day of Remembrance, which is on November 20 of this month. And this whole month is Transgender Awareness Month. This is why we're here and we're doing this today. We've worked together on different events and for Transgender Day of Remembrance. And we have different views on, well, only because of our experiences of how we're going to present that presentation. And there was a time when we in order to bring this type of information, I didn't really want to get graphic, so graphic, because we did have a time when people came to our ceremony, and we did present it as such, and they were deeply affected, as I was too. Those words are frightening, and it affected the audience. They came up to me and told me that that was a bit much. However, Ms. Bob is very right to bring these words because they need to be told, and it's a battle with me, trying to figure out how to present this information and not really affect people so much like that, but maybe they need that, you know. And I think it's how you present it. It's not in malice, you know. So my name is Cristina Zaldana. I'm the HIV prevention manager of Solano Pride Center, also volunteer coordinator, and we work with seniors. We have our senior luncheons. Please come by on every first and third Wednesday of the month at noon. It's a great group of folks. You're gonna love them. And you know, I'm a person of color, being trans and person of color, and I consider myself transgender. I have so many friends that are transgender, and they want to, for them it's either being man or woman, and they are in a hurry to get to womanhood, which I'm not knocking them for that, nothing wrong with that. And I've heard them talk of like, one day I will have this and one day I will be this. And that's not where I'm at. I'm already who I am. I don't need any operation. And once again, I'm not saying if anybody does, that's a bad thing. I'm not, we're all, and this is the thing about the LGBTQ community. There is a community, but we're really all on our own path in a different speed with different goals. This is what I found. This is my opinion. And it's very hard to make friends because of that, all of that. It's, I think just like with other communities, it's when you find someone, that's why it's so special, because because they're like gems, you know, friendships, and I could talk about so much, and I kind of work better with questions, but I would just like to say that, yeah, you know, it can be very frightening, and up to this date now, because of things going on, I'm very scared, very scared. I used to be a little bit more free about walking around, and I hardly go anywhere now, and I'm alone a lot of times, and it's a bit frightening for me. But then nevertheless, I have to go places and I have to do things. And I still have that fearlessness that gets me out there. I've never been afraid. I grew up in San Francisco, and I've never I've had people come up to me and say things. And for me, I always had a line, and I don't know. I don't know what it is about me, but I just don't let people knock me down. And I've always had a line in San Francisco when they said, "Hey, what's," you know, whatever they said. And I say, "Oh, you're new here, huh?" You know, in San Francisco, you know. And that seemed to work for me. I don't know. I never got into fights. I never let it get there. I remember, because of all that, I remember me being tense all the time when I first started going out, being tense all the time, like looking over your shoulder, and for a good reason. And I wasn't, you know, over doing things, but after a certain time of all that, doing that all the time, I remember walking down the street and saying, "Hey, you're doing this for a reason, to be free and to feel good. Start doing that, start feeling good, and stop being so tense." And I remember the time I started that. It changed everything for me. Yeah. The recent thing that I've done is become a citizen. I did that in June. And thank you. That was a biggie for me because of everything that's going on. I'm a person of color. I was not a citizen, and I didn't know if they were going to snatch me when I went down to the courthouse. I had some of my colleagues. Will was there. Big appreciation for that. Really dearly appreciated people being there for me. And so it was big for me to go down there as how I'm dressed. You know, I could have switched. By the way, you know, before all this, I used to live a secret life, switch off and on depending on who you're your friends at the time, you know, and that was fun. Yeah, it wasn't a bother for me. It was fun. I could still do it, but I'm not doing it anymore. I decided to just stay as I am now. But what happened was when I went down to the citizenship courthouse, I just went blank. To the citizenship courthouse. Oh wait. Oh, so you know, normally with things like that, I would switch and go down and be safe as boy mode. But this time I couldn't do that because my license. I already had taken a picture, you know, and I was trapped. I had to go down there as myself, and I'm glad I did. And nothing happened. I became citizen, and I'm just really proud of that moment. Thank you. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Maxon, and I just, okay, I'm 19, I'm really young, I'm aware of that. I have been out since I was like barely 14. It's been crazy. I always knew that I was like queer in some way. I came out as a lesbian when I was like 11 years old. I always knew I liked girls. I always knew that aspect. And then it kind of just made sense when I was 14 to just be myself, I guess. And I told my parents, not even on purpose, it was kind of on accident. It was really weird. I told my teacher on, you know, because we were in Zoom when this happened, I told my teacher over Zoom that I would prefer to be, like I preferred they, them pronouns at the time. I told my teacher over Zoom that I preferred they, them pronouns, and my teacher, since I was doing absolutely abhorrently in school, she sent emails to my parents telling them how bad I was doing and used they, them pronouns. And my parents were like, why are they using they, them pronouns for you on the emails? And then I was like, oh, yeah, that's a thing. And, you know, my parents, they weren't like as accepting as you would think at first. Like, it took them a long time to start calling me by Mac, to start calling me eventually Maxon. That took longer. I went from Mac to then Maxon because I was like, Mac feels like not a full name. It feels like a nickname, so I'm gonna just lengthen it a little bit. So it's like Jackson, but instead Maxon. It makes sense. I don't know. But yeah, the following year I went to Benicia High School, and I will say the kids were not the nicest at first. I wasn't on testosterone. I was just kind of also weird because I had been coming from, at that point, like almost a decade of homeschooling. That was kind of weird. I was a homeschooled kid. So I was coming from homeschooling, and I went right into Benicia High at 10th grade, and I knew no one, had no friends, and I was just sort of weird and socially awkward, and yeah, that was odd. For sure. Yeah, then I was in the GSA in my junior year of high school, and then I was president by my senior year of high school. What else? When I was in my senior year of high school, I did the first LGBTQ. It was like a pride event, full week-long pride event at BHS. Not even just in Benicia's history, but in the county's history, which I didn't realize until I was doing it. Which is how I met Will. And then now I'm on the board of directors for Solano Pride. Yeah, that for sure. Yeah. And I started testosterone at 17. And I'm going to get top surgery literally in exactly a month, like to the day today, which is really exciting. Yeah. I feel like I have had a very positive experience for the most part, but I also like to pretend the bad things didn't happen a lot of the time, because bad things did happen. I remember one week towards the end of my senior year of high school, the gender-neutral bathroom at BHS was closed for a week because people kept flushing who knows what down the toilets. I'm pretty sure it was a vape that time. I'm not sure. But people were flushing who knows what down the toilets, so the toilets were all clogged, so they closed the whole restroom. It was closed for like, I don't know, they started out and said it was gonna be like a week, and then it turned out to be the rest of the school year, which was no bueno. But I remember this specific week because I kept going because I was like, oh my God, I have to use the restroom. Went to the restroom, it was closed, so I had to use the boys' restroom because it was also the only restroom open on the entire school campus because they were trying to crack down on the vaping. So there was one boys' restroom open in the entire campus, which also meant that everybody was in that one restroom. And I remember waiting to use the restroom, and I was in the stall eventually. There was like 3 or 4 boys in front of me, and I was in the stall, and there were boys, they kept throwing toilet paper like over the stall at me. And I was just like sitting, it was so weird. And the school district really did like nothing to like catch them or do anything for it. So I have no idea who it was. And I know a couple years before that, there was a group of boys who threw a carton of milk at me and my partner while we were eating lunch one day. And I do believe that was because we were trans. Yeah. And there's also another time I was at the library, the public library in Benicia, and I had to use the restroom again. Went to the restroom, and I went in the stall, and there was a person who came in the bathroom, and usually how I try to play it safe is if somebody comes in, I'm going to wait until they leave to leave the stall. But this time I felt like, oh, it'd be fine, and it was not fine. He gave me a really weird look. I left the bathroom. He was in there for a while longer. I went into the lobby, was just studying for finals or something. I don't remember. I was studying for something. And he came out and he yelled at me that he wasn't gay or anything, and that he didn't want me to think that he was gay. And I was really, I ended up sobbing, and he got kicked out, but it was scary. I had a full-on panic attack. That was really scary. And that happened here in Benicia. We think of Benicia as this liberal place, but it's there's a lot of people who really are not. And it's really scary. And even as a young person, I'm in Davis now. I'm at college, obviously. But there's a lot of people even in Davis who are really interesting. That's one way to say it. So I don't know if I was trying to make a point or anything. I don't know what's going through my brain. I just was sharing. It's scary. Even now, it seems like, oh, it was bad, 20 years ago. It's still bad now. Maybe not as bad, but I think it's starting to get worse again. So, yeah, that's my experience.
Thank you. Wow, that's so cool. Thank you, everyone, for sharing what you wanted these lovely people to know. I want to reiterate a few things. One, that all of these people are doing amazing, great work in this county. They are very brave to continually go out and serve others even when they are under attack by our government. And we don't know if we're going to be able to get our prescriptions or our surgeries, and if we might be the next group of people to be picked up off the street because we're illegal, etc. And so, we don't talk about it very much. I've been starting to talk with my colleagues about it, that, we had to do Pride, which we had 2,000 more people than the year previous in our Sassoon Pride, and I was terrified. I was like, oh my God, is this going to be that next thing that happens to our community or in our country, because there's so much hate and fear. And so I started talking with folks about it, about, hey, how was that for you? I was terrified. So we started to validate that feeling, because we have to steel ourselves just to dress in our clothing and walk out our door every day, let alone use the bathroom, let alone go to the grocery store, let alone go to the doctor. How are we going to be treated? And so today everyone here looks lovely and they're hilarious and brilliant, and yet there is a weight whenever we come and do this stuff. So I thank you so much for being so welcoming and of that. But just know that is hard for us to come and do this kind of thing. There are a few things that I want to ask y'all to share, and I really think that your questions are the most important, because we kind of know what you think or what you might be curious about, but we really don't know. And I would like Jerry Ann at some point to talk about the difference between an ally and an accomplice. Because we need accomplices. So I don't know if you want to do that at the end after we take some questions, but y'all ain't leaving until you hear that speech. Just saying. So again, I just want to preface, there are no stupid questions. If anybody here is uncomfortable with the question you ask, I'm the guy, I'm going to answer it, okay? And, if you really are shy, I hope you have the courage to share your stories and your questions here. But you can go on to solanopride.org. My email is stefan@solanopride.org. You can ask those questions there if you're really shy and scared. But I really want to tell you, we just told you all sorts of very personal things about our life. We want to create a safe and brave space here, so that you can ask your questions and we can answer them, so that we don't have to be so mysterious. I mean, we are fabulous, but we don't need to be so mysterious. So we can go ahead and, does anybody have a question that they'd like to ask? Yeah.
I have a question. It just occurred to me, how your organizations, or how you have the ability to interact nationally with especially folks of your community, the transgender community, in some of the more, I will call it the more scarier states than California, that are really, really fearful and are, yes, being fired from their jobs and having their passports taken away and various other things. How, as a national network, are you helping each other?
Okay, I'll take that one for this. I have connections worldwide. People contact me in the middle of the night and are asking questions, and we're discussing things. I have clients which are in Montana, are in Colorado, are in Utah, places like that, that people will ask me, can you come help? Can you arrange for me to have somebody come in because I'm having surgery? I just had one person who had a hip replacement and needed care for the first couple weeks after surgery. We contact each other, and when I go back to the Montana Two-Spirit Society, we have 200 people there, and they're PhDs, they're master's degrees, they have their own orgs, or they represent orgs, and we network. And when we network, we do it in such a way that we can protect our peoples. But we're always trying to chip away at what the initial problems are. Like one example, TDOR, I'll bring that one up again. Many times when we are murdered or have committed suicide, the families will dead name us. My name's Jerry Ann. My original name was James. I'm a military veteran, U.S. Army. My DD-214 and my birth certificate still have my original birth name on it. So by state of California law, they would have to bury me as my birth certificate shows James until I can get that changed. The problem we have with Sacramento is it takes 26 weeks to change a birth certificate. 26 weeks, half a year. So if something happens to me in between that time, okay, my tombstone may say my chosen name. And they say your chosen name, your chosen gender, whatever. This is my name. My name is Jerry Ann. I've changed it by court order. I've changed my gender by court order. Okay? When you ask about preferred pronouns, these are our pronouns. And I fight this all the time with medical questionnaires, you know. What's your preferred pronoun? I'll scratch that out. This is my pronoun. What's your preferred name? This is my name. This is who you're going to call me by. And we have to get away from that. We have to get away from that because we are real people, just like you. So I want to bring that up because a lot of times you'll see, you know, oh, we're trying to take rights, we're trying to do this. No, we're just trying to live our lives. We'd like to be buried with our names that we have. You know, Rita Hester, you know, Marsha Johnson, you know, Miss Major, who we just lost this year. That's who we are. So I hope we've answered your question a little bit. We do have such a network, though.
Will, what's the name of the organization you work with across all of the national LGBTQ centers and the California ones? Centerlink. That's how we keep in contact with a lot of the different orgs. And social media. You know, Facebook may be dead in many ways, but not for the trans community. There are at least 20 that I'm on, and I think during the pandemic I was in 50 of them. From what surgeon to use, how to change your name, how to get mental health. That's how I started my private practice. I was for free and still do counseling young people and people of all ages that are trans trying to come out across the world. Because the pandemic forced everyone to stay at home. Well, maybe their parents weren't, or their families weren't very welcoming. So, and for some reason we managed to find each other. I think, you know, it's just kind of like an interesting thing. We gravitate to each other, and that is such a lovely and thankful thing in the queer community. We find safety, and maybe it's something we give off, I don't know, but I'm very thankful for that. Yeah.
I'll just mention Land Illegal and the Transgender Law Center are the two that are doing the most work in the legal sphere.
Yeah.
Trying to push back against the Trump administration's
Cannot say cannot say enough about the work that the Transgender Law Center has done. They are constantly lobbying. The ACLU is keeping track of everything. Lambda Legal, Centerlink. Oh, and then one came to my mind and I couldn't remember. Oh, and the LGBTQ caucus here in California is amazing. And they do a lot of the lobbying with Equality California. So you can follow Equality California and know all the stuff that we're trying to change about our government here in California and then in Washington, which is going to be a little bit more difficult right now, but we still try. And if you would like to join us for lobby days and come and fight for us, then pay attention to Solano Pride's newsletter and we'll go up together. Wear comfy shoes because it's a lot of walking. I think the first time I went, did you come this last time?
When was the last time?
This year.
This year? Yes.
Yeah. The first time I went, I got to talk to 5 Republican Assembly members and 1 Democratic. It's interesting how different their offices are. But you know what? They listened. So that I will take. And things are changing. It's just slow. So, yeah, absolutely. How many female transgender people in the entire world? No, just locally. Oh, I have no idea. Well, no.
That's not true.
No. I think we're, no, you're okay. No. We're split in half actually up here.
We're pretty much split in half, but Solano County has 465,000 residents. Approximately 7% of those residents are LGBT. Of that, approximately 4.5% are transgender. Mm-hmm. It is 4% of the 7. Or about 1% out of the entire county. Now, the thing that that people don't understand is when we transition from male to female, in the eyes of standard people, we have stepped down. We have given up our patriarchy, our status. When we go from female to male, we've upped our status. Now,
but often without the pay raise.
Without the pay raise.
I can attest to that.
Now, also,
That one again, from male to female
is upping your status.
Male to female is upping.
No. It's the other way around. So
female. Yeah. Female to male ups your status. Now, here's the thing. It's easier to go in people's eyes female to male than male to female, because they still look at us as men dressed in women's clothing, men wearing skirts, versus somebody like Stefan or Maxon. I know Max. I don't. I'm working on Maxon. Max. They can hide their identity better during their transition. I still have to shave. I still have the face I had before because I can't go through the facial feminization surgery because of a certain therapist back in my time. They put a mark in my medical records, so I can't get facial feminization surgery. So in California, there are approximately 250,000 trans people. So
But more coming every day. We get calls about once a month at the center of people wanting to know how safe it is in Solano County.
Yeah. So there's a lot of turmoil right now. But again, you're going to see that the male to female is the one that everybody sees. Everybody makes the news about. Yeah. And everybody has the bias against. But again, go to any of your restrooms and have Stefan or Maxon go in there, and what's going to happen? What's going to happen when people see the beard or see that physique.
Yeah.
That's what people aren't paying attention to. We're going in there to go to the bathroom and get the heck out. Okay? And an all-gender bathroom?
Excuse me.
Sorry. An all-gender bathroom is the same bathroom you have at home.
Of course.
But people make a big deal of it.
Just wash your hands. Yes. Yeah. But, you know, thank you for your question. I know, right? That would really change the world and save us money in healthcare. Thank you for your question. I think I should add some terminology. I really encourage all of you to go home, look at the Human Rights Campaign. They keep a constant upgrade of terminology, and there probably isn't all of it there. Will and I, every time we do a presentation, we find another flag, another term, because it's not the queer community, it is the gender and sexuality information for the human race. And that's what I would love to move forward. So it's not us over here, it's all of us. And we fall under that umbrella somewhere. Now, you might hear assigned female at birth. So that is someone who is born and the doctor's like, ooh, yep, that's a girl. And then assigned male at birth is the same one that, ooh, okay, that's a boy. Now, as we grow, humans are like, wait a minute, I don't fit that definition. And, you know, I knew at 4, some people find out in puberty, some people have an awakening later in life because they are allowed to finally have that opening. And that is when you identify as transgender because you're going to transition. And then there's a whole lot of things that fall under that category too. Did I miss something?
Yeah.
Yeah, tell me.
My sister, Dr. Jenny Lorena Thomas, she's a PsyD, PhD. She's a neurologist as well. She did the major study in the United States that backed up a European study that showed that there was a difference between the male and female brain. And trans women, their brain features are more like a female's brain. Trans men, their brain features are more like a regular man's brain. So it is biologic in a sense. That's why we went from being a gender disorder, a mental disease, to gender dysphoria, a physiological, biological difference that has mental problems with it because we're not accepted. Our big thing is not being accepted. That's why we have the dysphoria we have mostly, because we can't accept our own body when we look down and say, hey, we've got pieces we don't belong with, okay? And then our lovely community reinforces it.
Yeah.
And so that gives us depression, anxiety, PTSD, all these disorders you hear that we have. That's why it leads into alcoholism. That's why it leads into drug addiction. That's what leads into suicidality. Okay? So it is a biological factor in our brains.
Oh boy.
About 60 years ago, one of the founders of the current transgender community put it really simply. Sex is what's between your legs. Gender is what's between your ears.
Oh, wow, that is really succinct.
Well, I will.
Could one of you speak to the differences around the diversities between folks physiologically in the intersex community?
I'm frankly not qualified.
Jerry Ann's got you.
My sister, Dr. Thomas, was born intersex. Had both the male and female genitalia, Grew up until 11 years old being a girl. Got to play with dolls, got to wear dresses, the whole 9 yards. Grandpa asked, "Do you like boys or do you like girls?" Jenny, because in Mexico, you're not lesbian or anything like that, patriarchal society. "I like girls." "Then you're a boy." So her name was James. She went through the military as James Thomas, Special Ops. Here's a little thing, since 1863, transgender people in the military may choose what gender they serve as, male or female, only category. So Jenny served as male throughout her career, 28 years in the military. When she got out, she transitioned to female. But she had the breasts of a female. So she had to tape every day for 28 years. She had to shower she ended up coming out as a lieutenant colonel. But during her deployments, she had to shower with the guys, and she would normally shower with her underwear on because she had both. Wow. So intersex, they make up a large, actually, I think at last count, 2% of the population, 2 to 3%. So you're looking at 3% of 300 million people. That's a lot of intersex people.
Many of whom don't even know that they're intersex because they've never been told by their medical.
Right. And many of us find out later on when we do our genetic studies, you give your swab and, XXY chromosomes, YXY, all this mixed up stuff. I had a scan at UCSF, and they said, "Oh, we see the shadowing of your ovaries." Really? I was born male. Then they started doing the testing, and XXY. So we don't find these things out until later in life. I'm going to be 65 years old in December. I made it. Average age for a trans person to be murdered, by the way, is 35. That's our lifespan. So, 65, and the people up here, we've made it past there.
We will protect you, Mac.
Please. But I have one friend also, and he didn't find out he was intersex until after he transitioned. It was like as he was starting testosterone, and it turned out that he already had like way more testosterone than he was supposed to have, being an assigned female at birth person. And the other thing I wanted to add too is dysphoria. It isn't always necessarily, I hate my body, I hate every aspect of my body. Sometimes it's just like a puzzle with a piece that just doesn't quite fit, and you're like, where does this piece actually go? And then you find the spot where it actually fits, and it makes more sense. So it's not always like, I hate every aspect of myself. At least that is how it is for me in a lot of ways. Like, it used to be worse, I will say, but once I started testosterone, a lot of the painful stuff went away, and now it's just like, well, these just don't look normal. Like, it just doesn't look right. I don't know. So.
Could you say more about that? How it made you feel better?
Yeah, it was literally, I would say, night and day. Like, I used to have horrible depression, like really, really bad depression. My grades were horrible. I never wanted to be social. I was a recluse, really. And when I finally started testosterone, I kind of just started to feel like I was like just who I was supposed to be, I guess. Like, and I also would not say I'm the most like masculine guy that has ever existed, but in a weird way, starting testosterone allowed me to experience my feminine side more. Like, I would say I present most likely, or most often, and my friends have said this too, like I'm the gayest straight man they've ever met. Like, and you know, I like that, but not every trans person likes that. That's what I would say. But as soon as I was able to start testosterone, I felt like I could be comfortable in literally any clothing for the most part and be comfortable. Before that, I was basically just wearing like big t-shirts and hoodies, and I don't know, it just felt more comfortable, but.
So how did it actually, did it arrest your female development, or how did testosterone affect your bodily self?
So I started testosterone at 17, so I had already gone through full female puberty. I'm about a year and a half now on testosterone, so I'm definitely not the farthest along. Stefan's a lot further than I am. Yes. But immediately, like, gosh, my voice started deepening. I think I had for the most part, my full deepened voice by like, I don't know, like 8 or 10 months on testosterone. Like my voice dropped, basically. That's what that means. The other thing I noticed is a lot of like my facial fat sort of redistributed, and my face like got slimmer, less puffy. I am now growing facial hair, which is pretty cool. I wasn't doing that like 3 months ago, so it's kind of crazy. I am only 19, so. I don't experience menstruation because I do have an IUD already as well, but testosterone does usually stop it as well. So it's kind of a combination of those two things. Stopped it.
It's not a full guarantee.
Yeah.
But the vast majority of trans men do not have a period anymore. Although we don't even call it that. We call it Shark Week. But anyway.
I have not actually had a period since I was like 16, 15. I don't know.
Thanks for sharing.
Let me tell you about a different hormone story. I decided after many years, I was in my 60s, and I decided I was going to start hormones.
Awesome.
So I went to a psychologist who I already knew. Let's just say I knew her. We don't have to go through all the details of that. It'll make the story longer than it needs to be. And got approval, went to a doctor, and took the hormones, and my nipples started getting very sensitive. And,
yes.
And my breasts got a little bigger, and I lost a lot of hair on my body. And I went to the doctor and I said, I was concerned that my breasts would get too large. And she said, Bob, you have to remember, you're starting hormones after most women have finished menopause. So, you know, there's just not that much happened, really. You know. And then I started having a variety of different unrelated physical problems, the kinds of things you get when you're older. And I decided to discontinue the hormones. I decided my body was going through enough with just the added years that I didn't need to introduce another complication. After all, I had spent 60 plus years living, you know, and presenting masculine. And, you know, and now I'm Ms. Bob, right? I'm not Barbara. And I wouldn't, I did it to be, as people have said here, more of who I am, who I feel I am. And I decided I really was Ms. Bob.
Yeah.
I wasn't Gladys or Sylvia, and I'm really not Robert either. So I'm glad I had the experience, but I also think, considering the stresses my body's feeling from the now 78 years, I think I made a pretty good decision.
Other things that happen, I'm going through detransition slightly right now because I had a stroke in February. And so, because estrogen can contribute to blood clots, my stroke was a blood clot. I lost 3 weeks of my life. And it's hard to detransition after you've been doing this for a while, because all of a sudden things come back that it's like, oh, you know, I'm having to shave twice a day now. I'm having to you know, worry about other things. Other things we have to worry about as trans people. I teach at Toro 4 times a year. And that's a medical college we have in Mare Island. As a trans woman, I still have a partial prostate. Trans men will have, some of them will still have their ovaries. And we still have to go through these pap smears and these prostate checks and things like that. But you have to find the right doctors that understand that. And you can't imagine how hard that is because there is no one qualified in Solano County. I have to go to UCSF in San Francisco.
Sarah Firefox Allen, who is the executive director at the Pacifica Center in Berkeley, which is our sister center in Berkeley, just wrote a book on menopause for non-binary people.
So these are things that we have to, are added burdens that we carry with us. It's not just getting older, it's getting older in a newish body. When I transitioned at 49 years old, okay? I went through menopause and puberty at the same time.
So much fun.
Okay? Size 6 pants, crop tops, you know, at 49 years old. Yeah.
Yes.
First of all, I just want to thank you all so much for sharing with us, and I hope all of us can support you in the community more and more. But my question is for Jackson. I came to the library presentation with Arcadius Village, I met you back then, and right now you were just saying that when you came out, you've been homeschooled and your parents had some difficulty in the beginning. So I'm wondering if you can talk a little bit about what you had to do to help your parents become supporters of you. And then perhaps an easier question is, when you, with people in the public, what are the most positive behaviors we can do to be supportive of, as allies, as people come out as transgender or whatever it is? How can
Yes. And
non-binary people,
awesome.
binary people be allies to non-binary?
Fabulous. Thank you. When you answer the question about your parents, feel free to answer that, and then please hand the mic to Jerry Ann about accomplices. Thank you.
Well, when I came out, I was 14. So as you can imagine, I was also still an angsty teenager. The most angsty teenager. So it really, for my parents, it just took time, and like I would correct them, but like honestly, more mean than I probably should have been. Because again, angsty teenager. But It really just took time. My parents like get it 100% of the time at this point, except like sometimes when they're referring to old photographs of me, which is interesting. It's sort of, I don't know, it's interesting, but like they get it like 100% of the time now. Yeah, I think the one thing that I wish I could have more of, I guess, I'm gonna partially answer the accomplice thing, not a ton, but just a little bit, is like if a trans person has told you that, hey, these are my pronouns, this is my name, and you see other people referring to them incorrectly, correct them. That's the simplest way. And if you mess up, which I'm sure at some point you will, because that is how life is, you make mistakes, don't go and apologize a thousand times. You just say, oh, my mistake, and then correct yourself and move on with the conversation. There's no need to apologize 1,000 times, like, oh my God, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean that, like, blah, blah, blah. Like, you don't need to do all of that. Just, oh, my mistake, correct yourself, move on. That's what I would say.
Thank you.
Okay, the famous ally versus accomplice.
It's important.
All right. Example. I went to Denny's restaurant. They used to be on Sonoma Boulevard with my niece. We're sitting there having dinner. The waitress comes up, and she's paying complete attention to my niece and ignoring me. Basically, I have to order through my niece. My niece doesn't pick up on that. Doesn't pick up on that I didn't get a glass of water. Doesn't pick up on that I didn't get the extra soda that I had requested, things like that. But she will defend me to the death, for the most part, in public. An ally can turn it on and turn it off. Oh, well, hey, why didn't they call you so-and-so when you're in the car? Okay? Not when you're at the restaurant. Oh, I'm sorry, sir. Excuse me. I had a friend of mine with me the other day, and he said, no, excuse me, she's she. You need to refer to her that way. Mm-hmm. You stand up at that point. You say something. Because if I say something, I'm making a scene. I'm that angsty tranny down the street. But if you, the person I'm out to lunch with, the person I'm going shopping with, or whatever else, that's an accomplice. An accomplice will, no matter what, stand up and say something. I went for the very first time and got high heel shoes way back, and this is 2011 when I first started transitioning. And I went into Macy's with another one of my nieces, and I was looking at a beautiful handbag. I was going to purchase it from Macy's in the Concord Mall. And the sales clerk walks up and says, talks to my niece and says, oh, well, that's a lovely handbag that, that your friend's holding. Would you like to purchase it? You know, because he was holding the handbag. And my niece looks at the lady and goes, no. Her name is Jerry Ann. She is she. The lady turned around and walked away. Refused to service us. But she spoke up at that time. We need accomplices. We don't need allies. And a good example, hey, the United States is an ally to France, but yet what have we done? Okay, allies can turn your back that fast. But an accomplice, they'll go to jail for you or with you. That's what we need. That's what we want you all to be, accomplices. Mm-hmm. And if somebody says, well, I'm an ally, you know, oh, I have a black friend. I have a Mexican friend. I'm not racist. Really? I'm sorry. Okay? It's the same thing. So that's the difference. Be an accomplice.
There's a notion that our community, LGBTQ or trans people or gay people, are somewhere over there. They have nothing to do with me. They're over there, and let's keep it separate. No, it's not the way it is. We're part of your family. We're your uncles, your kids, your nephews. I encourage you to look in your family in answer to your question, how do you be an ally or an accomplice? To look in your family and seek those that are and need help. They might, and ask them, do you need anything? They might still say no, because we're very independent and we feel like we can take care of everything, but they do, I do. I wish somebody would come in my family and ask me that. There's a saying, be careful who you hate, it could be someone you love.
Yeah. I just kind of wanted to make a comment. When you were talking to the right of Miss Bob, I don't remember your name, but you had said, oh, I think I transitioned too fast. And then after, and that was quite a while ago, and then after listening to story after story of you guys, it's just like, oh my gosh. I was going to ask you, well, why did you say that? And now I'm like, well, it's such a hard life. It just appears to me like it's hard. Every single story is, filled with hardship and pain.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, I was let go of the Marriott. I managed the Napa Valley Marriott. And when I started transitioning, I was let go because, quote, I wasn't HVAC certified. They used that excuse to get me out.
Yeah.
Marriott Corporation, by the way, is owned by the Mormons.
I didn't know that.
So these are things we run into.
Yeah.
And that's why people say we're resilient. And it's not resilience, it's survival.
Survivalist.
Yeah. What's the choice?
Yeah, exactly.
Jason, yeah.
So my name is Kaysen.
Kaysen.
And your question again?
Well, you had mentioned that you thought you had come out a couple years ago and you thought you did it too quickly. And I was wondering what that meant.
For
but
me,
now I know why, maybe.
Well, for me, it was, I felt an urgency inside to show the outside extension of myself. And at first it was really positive, and then it shifted. And it got rather challenging. And yeah, it's the hardship, but it's also living my life as me.
Mm-hmm.
That's the bigger joy.
Yeah, absolutely.
The things you'll find, yeah. The things you're going to find out about all of us and about trans people in general. Our lives are very similar. We have our coming out stories. We have our ups and our downs. I got beat by my son-in-law to the point that I was in the hospital and he broke my neck. And then the doctor refused to treat me at Sutter. And would put the paperwork on the counter, go get an x-ray. Did not examine me whatsoever. Oh, you've got 2 vertebrae in your neck that are broken, C1, C2, in your neck. And the cops are here. Cops come in, 2 female cops. How can we help you, sir? I'm dressed as female. We all run into this.
Mm-hmm.
So our stories are very much similar, but they're not exactly the same.
Yeah.
Please.
Thank you so much. My question is, what is one thing, maybe others, what is one thing that churches or faith communities can do starting tomorrow that would help the trans community feel, or, to feel, I guess, aligned spiritually or to feel spiritually safe and seen. So not more, I don't want to put that more word, but to feel spiritually safe and seen.
One of the things that we run into, and I'll speak on this only because, quote, I got my ordination through the email because at the time that I did that, there were so many trans people that weren't getting funerals because ministers wouldn't see us. We want you to accept us for who we are, because there's nothing in any Bible that states that anything's wrong with us. Okay? You look at Matthew in the Bible about the eunuchs and things like that, man-made and or. Okay? We don't want to be demonized. I have a study that I usually bring to TDOR from the Pope, and back in 2022, I got a phone call from a friend of mine that was at the Vatican, and they sent me the paperwork about being LGBT in the Bible. And the bottom line is, there is no condemnation for anything LGBT. The condemnation is a man having sex with a child and a man having sex with a servant, because neither of those people can say no. A loving relationship between two people is all that God talks about. Male, male, female, female, male, female. I have that study. If you'd like that for your church, I can get you a copy. This is what we want you to understand. We are no different than you. But churches in the past have demonized us so badly that many of us have turned our back on it. I was born and baptized Episcopalian. My parents founded the Ascension Church in Vallejo, and my grandmother, St. Catherine's Catholic Church. Neither at the time understood who I am. Please ask somebody to be around.
I was also going to add, you could just put up like resources for queer people on websites or on flyers, just literally any sort of, here is this visible thing. If you need help, this is a place where you can get help.
Mm-hmm.
And if somebody is asking for help, help them.
Yeah. I'll let Ms. Bob go, and is it okay if I go first?
Sure.
No, I have a mic. I'm good. You can hold on. It's fancy. I think I was really thinking about your question as these folks were talking, and I think what would really help, the pride flag is great. I actually encourage all of you to go home, find a queer organization, buy a pride flag, put it up, because then we know our neighborhoods are safer, and it isn't just queer people outing themselves. It's everyone saying everyone is welcome here. And that would make me feel way safer. For here in a church, and I would love to see this in all the open and welcoming congregations. In your education series that you do for youth, adding in gender and sexuality as a normative, not an other. Adding in civil rights leaders and the civil rights movements for all of the marginalized groups. And then all of a sudden the children and the families have to address it. What I've experienced walking into other churches is, while I am welcome, I am still other. And folks are like, yeah, we have the pride flag. Is your wife coming? You know, and like, yeah, that's fine, I have a wife, but if I was a gay man, that would be a different conversation. So I think that there's this ideology in that we're welcoming. Great, we love you that you're here, but we don't really see you. And I think about that all the time. Like, how can we make that? Because the Bible, like you said, and I also feel and believe, like, I have a relationship with God. I'm not worried about that. It's everyone else that I have trouble with. God is like, keep moving, son. Like, I'm just doing my thing. Yeah.
Another question for what you just said.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think as a non-spiritual person, I think the churches have if they want to make us welcome, they got a tough row to hoe.
Yeah.
Do you know what happened in the Catholic Church in the United States just this week? The bishops voted to suspend all transgender programs at all their hospitals, nationwide. No more hormones, no more counseling, no more surgery. But even the counseling, pardon.
That's life-saving counseling.
That's
Yes,
right.
that's true.
That's one thing we know at the center, is the suicidal rates are so much higher for folks that don't develop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's basically saying, we want you dead.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and if you are a Catholic, and especially if you are a young Catholic with some kind of conflicts having to do with sexuality or gender, how do you feel after that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Suicide rate for those between the ages of 10 and 18 is 47%.
I got nothing more to say on the subject.
Something that happened just yesterday. We had one of our seniors pass away, very dear friend. And so we went to the eulogy, the sermon that the priest gave. And I grew up Catholic, and I hate to say this, but that's the way I feel. I got it shoved down my throat like for years. The Eurocentric view of Catholicism. And I just completely just rejected all of that. I did not throw away God. I did not throw away God. God's in here for me. He's us. God said, I am the light, just like you can say, I am the light. So yesterday, the sermon that the priest gave was very inclusive of us, and he gave a sermon of talking about not being ashamed. Just to keep it shortly, not being ashamed of yourself. God would not want that. It's not right to live ashamed in life, and that blew me away. That's, we need more sermons like that, and not what I've been hearing for the rest of before that. As a little kid in going to church, and I went to Catholic school, and the nuns were terrible, So that's my opinion. I'm not saying that nuns are terrible. I'm saying that my experience of them were. So yeah, I think we need more inclusiveness in the word.
Yeah.
My question.
Yeah.
I work as a substitute teacher.
Mm.
And it's always a lot of fun to be out there. One way I try to stand up, people will say, "Oh, you're so gay." I'm like, "Why are you saying that? Like, that's a bad thing." Come on. Where there are all kinds of orientations out there, they're all fine. Now let's learn some math. Don't get focused on what we're here for.
Yeah.
But as children are talking, more and more kids think, "Well, I think I'm bi, and maybe I think I'm just going to be," they have all the sex dimensions just pouring out of their mouth. So I'm wondering if you are feeling that, for Jackson and for the generations that
It's Maxon, just so you know. It's okay.
I'm sorry. For Maxon, and the generations that follow, do you feel that I'm going to be who I am is more
I would say yes and no in a weird way. I feel like younger kids are more accepting, and then as they become tweens and teenagers, they become less accepting, and then some of them become accepting in adulthood, and some of them do not. And I don't exactly know where it happens, where kids decide that they want to be like accepting or not accepting, but it happens at some point, and I don't know when that is, honestly. Like my cousins, for example, I have all younger cousins. I have like 6 cousins. They're all accepting of me in a way, is what I'd say, but they still mess up because they're kids, and I don't know. It's hard to be a kid and see a cousin change everything. But I do feel like the younger ones, the younger that they are, they understand more in a weird way. Like my one cousin, August, I came out when he's like 10 now, somehow. How was he 10 years old?
That's how we feel about you being 19.
I don't know how he's 10 years old now, but he is. And I mean, like, I know when I was like 13 or 14, when I first came out, like, he was pretty, like, chill about it. And also, weird side note, he used to ask for Barbies for like, Christmas presents and stuff like that when he was younger, and he does not ask for Barbies anymore. Which is really interesting. I don't know when that changed, but at some point he stopped asking for Barbies.
Did you ever get one?
Yeah, I got him a Barbie. I got him a Barbie one Christmas.
You let him know if he needs any more Barbies. We got his back.
I don't know when it happens, but it's at some point.
So I'm a foster parent. And I have a 9-year-old who's living with us right now, and hopefully will never leave because he's amazing. He was in foster care before us for about 4 years in what I guess is a very binary house, meaning gender roles were very specific, colors were very specific. You know, Mr. Beardface comes in and says boys and girls can do whatever the heck they want, and there's a pride flag on the front of the house, and it was cute. He's like, "Are you like the boss of Pride?" Because I kept going to all these different events and stuff, and I was like,
You can't just say yes, right?
I did. I said I am. Good job. Yes. So feel free. And he likes this hat the best. He I don't think he understands, but he obviously understands that everyone is welcome in our home, and that everyone gets to be who they are authentically in our home. And we were playing The Sims the other day, and you know, because we have these conversations, and all of a sudden he's like, "Oh, I wonder if she would." And I was like, and he got a little upset because I said, "Oh, well, maybe she wants that girl," because there was a romantic thing happening on the screen. And he's like, "But that's a girl." And I'm like, "Lesbians." He's like, "Right, my bad, I'm so sorry." So, and he's going to school with other boys that say, "But that's a girl thing and that's a boy thing." And so it's just something that happens. And one thing that I can say is if you have young people in your life, to explain to them again and again and again and again until you can't speak anymore, is that boys and girls can do whatever the hell they want. And there's even some that aren't either.
You know, I want to speak to gender affirming care for a moment. Those are buzzwords. And let me tell you why. The women, cisgendered women in this room, get pap smears, correct? The cis males get prostate exams. Guess what? That's gender affirming care.
Mm-hmm.
Your little blue pill is gender affirming care. Your IUD or hormones that you get as a woman are gender affirming care. Your facials, your hair, nails. All that is gender affirming care. Those are buzzwords that are used to divide us. Start reading into those, because that's what's trying to put up the walls. Gender affirming care is care that is specific for that gender. Period. Male or female, as you are. Again, prostate exams, pap smears. You get a mammogram. That's gender affirming care. So when the Catholic Church says, we're not going to fund gender affirming care anymore, guess what? Then they should shut down all of their hospitals, because everything you do in a hospital is gender affirming care. I know I'm on a soapbox and I apologize. But I want to bring it down to that. You have been listening to buzzwords for the past 10 years. And you have to understand they're meant to divide. They're meant to make us against them, right against left, rich against poor.
So what is the terminology that is appropriate for someone who is transitioning and wants the medical attention that would affirm them?
It's
Gender
it's
affirming
still
care.
gender affirming care.
It just means
But
it's for
all of
everyone.
it is gender affirming care.
I get your point, but I mean, to be supportive,
Don't automatically look into the word gender affirming care as only meaning transgender people, gay people, lesbian people. Gender affirming care is care given to everybody.
Absolutely.
Yes. So what I, we as trans people go through many years of therapy. We go see psychiatrists, therapists, we see MDs, we see all these people before anything happens, and that includes the youth, especially the youth. Okay? It's not you're just going to go get hormones. It's not you're just going to go do this and go do that. I started transitioning in late 2010. I came out October 21st, 2010. My surgery was actually on New Year's Eve 2019.
Oh my God.
You tell me I made a rush to judgment. You tell me I didn't pay the price. When I was here in Solano County, I'm the first person to transition under Solano Partnership. They sent me to La Clinica. La Clinica looks at me and I said, I think I'm transgender. They said, trans what? Go transgender. What is that? So then I went to Lyon Martin in San Francisco. And I had to work with Solano Partnership, with their director, in order to get medical care. That's why we founded Solano Serenity Center, because there's no support services here. Serenity Center is not what Solano Pride is, where Solano Pride has an office and they have therapy, they have this. We're an advocacy group. We're the ones that are going to get in the faces of every one of these politicians and tell them like it is. There are several counties, including San Joaquin, including San Benito and some of these counties that do not recognize the LGBT in their county, so they refuse to get funding for us in those counties. They don't count us. Now, mind you, with a state of 40 million people and at least 250,000 trans people, how many LGBT do you think are here? Okay? This is what you got to look at. They are weaponizing this because they want to keep us as an other. We're broken. We're deficient. We're not. And I'm hoping that this panel opens up to more discussions. I hope you invite us back for a full room.
Yeah. Ooh. Yeah.
What your life is like.
Yeah.
To me, you're just like we are, you're people. But I know it's not an easy ride. And I find this very, very interesting, especially for you because you're so young. And I wonder how much trouble you had in high school.
What we pray is less than what they had.
Yeah.
Yeah, we would hope so. What is the best avenue to direct someone who is in the questioning?
Yeah.
You know, the questioning, because it's LGBTQAI,
Yeah.
et cetera. But the questioning, to me, that seems like that would be a very, you know, you've got 4-year-olds and you've got 65-year-olds. So, I mean, how do you, if there's someone in your family or someone that you know or someone who's really struggling with this and you find out about it, where is the questioning? Is that the Pride Center?
You go, Pride Center is, and I plug the Pride Center because they're our sister group. People may be questioning, and usually when we're questioning, we're going to seek out Pride Center. We're going to seek out places like Lion Martin in San Francisco, Pacific Center, things like that that are around here. The harder part is, let's bring grandma, let's bring grandpa, let's bring mom and dad. Have them come to the centers. Have them ask the questions that they're afraid to ask. That's what these people come in. I'm the one you're going to come to say, we need this law changed. I'm the one who's going to sit there. I couldn't get a hunting license for 10 years. Now, mind you, I was the youngest NRA instructor in the state of California at 15. I couldn't get a hunting license. Why? Because I changed my name and my gender. 10 years of battling. I had to go see a congressman to make a phone call, and the head of the Department of Fish and Game called me 8 o'clock at night, had me scan my ID into the computer. Okay, go get your hunting license. After 10 years. I changed my name. I changed my gender. I did everything legally. I went to go get unemployment. You don't exist. I had my neck broken, got into a hospital. They admitted me under my dead name, even though my Social Security number and all my IDs say Jerry Ann. These are where these organizations come in. So each of our organizations specialize. Solano AIDS Coalition. We teach, and I sit on that board. I'm the treasurer. We teach about STIs. We teach about HIV and AIDS. Did you know Solano County is one of the highest counties in this state for HIV, AIDS, and STIs? Average person, the first getting the STI in this county is 11 years old. And don't tell me you're going to teach your children at home about sexually transmitted diseases or about sex. Bring it to the professionals. Bring it to the Pride Center. Bring it to Solano AIDS Coalition. Because you're not qualified.
Speak up with the Board of Supervisors to make sure we can get into the schools because they've barred us.
They barred us from all the schools. We can't get into the schools. I used to be able to teach in schools. I was the very first HIV, AIDS, sexual education instructor in this county. I worked for the Solano County Health Department in 1982 after I got out of the Army. You can't do that anymore. You have to be invited in. And then you have to go through all the red tape, background checks, and all this other good stuff to get into the schools.
In the counter fight on that, what was the grounds for the board, the supervisors taking away your service?
It's
not getting invited anymore.
Yeah.
It's the parents. It is the parents. And I will tell you that because Mario and I used to be at Vallejo High. We used to be at Bethel High. And we used to because Solano AIDS Coalition does your Fiestas Patrias, Fiestas Primavera that we have here in Benicia in March, Dia de los Muertos. This December, we're doing the Christmas party for the HIV/AIDS kids and underprivileged. We started with 60 kids 20 years ago. Last year, we serviced 2,500. Okay? We don't get a dime from the county. We don't get a dime from anything other than donors. So we don't get invited in because the parents say, our kids don't need that. Or, why are you letting the faggots in the building?
Yeah.
We held TDOR at the Vallejo Museum 3 years ago. This is our third year. The first time I was there doing TDOR, there was a group there that hadn't left the building yet. And they asked the executive director at the time, why are you letting the faggots in the building? By the way, I am now the treasurer of the Vallejo Museum and hopefully soon to be board president.
Hey.
Condolences are, yes, thank you. This is what we fight. This county is the only county in the state of California that when we had the same-sex marriage on the ballot, this county voted solidly no. Out of 52 counties. Where does it start? It starts with all of you. It starts with you going home and talking to your friends, getting on that chat when you're on Facebook. At the grocery store, you see some of us. Say hi. Please.
When you see our Halloween dance being disparaged on Facebook, you can speak up on our behalf of our youth program.
Yeah. You know, we need this because you is where everything will start with. And we want to be just like you.
Thank you.
Thank our panel and moderators, Stefan and Maxon, Jerry Ann, Jason, Ms. Carl, Christina. There's tabling out here. I think Jerry Ann brought in some of the folks that we're going to be remembering at TDOR next Saturday night at the Vallejo Museum. If you want to see some of the folks we lost this year, they're in a binder out here in preparation for that. If you want to learn more about Ms. Bob and the Louise Lawrence Trans Archive or the Solano's Pride Center, please come out, and there's even snacks out there.
Nice.
Is there a Facebook post with Solano Pride or with?
We have a whole Facebook page.
We can share.
Yes.
The Day of Remembrance from our Facebook.
Yes, yes. You'll see the flyer for TDOR. It's purplish this year, and you'll see it on our page. Thanks for coming. And
Yes.
spending extra time.
Thank you. If I could just say one more thing, and it might be more than one thing, sorry. Go to solanopride.org, join our newsletter, come to our events, learn more about your neighbors, and the more we have accomplices with us, the stronger and safer we feel. Also, to answer your other question about questioning even further, we have 6 months of free therapy at the Solano Pride Center. So anybody that's questioning can come or their family, like you suggested, grandma and grandpa, mom and dad, brothers and sisters can come there. We tried to get a family group going and no one would come. They're too afraid. So encourage them to come to us.
Maybe we should host it here.
And I'll say with the mic, serenitycenter.org as well.
A yes for a parent support group here.
Let's do it. Awesome. All right.
Thanks, everybody.
All right. Thank you very much.